The opinions expressed on the following audio program are solely those of the host and the guests. Burner Podcast is an independently produced, not-for-profit show and is not associated with the Burning Man organization or its subsidiaries. The views expressed are not representative of the entire Burning Man community and are presented here for entertainment purposes only. In short, calm the fuck down. It's just a podcast.
Hey, it's episode number 156, and it is 187 days till the man burns. As of this recording, yeah, 187 on the motherfucker. You know what? That's about as gangsta as I'm ever going to get on this show. Right up top, quick update on what's brewing. You might have noticed, or maybe you didn't, I don't know, that we did or are, depending on when you're listening to this, launched a new show. Burner Podcast presents The Dispatch. It's a new 15-minute-ish quick bite field report, typically a phone call or a remote recording where I check in with our global community, past guests, interesting little quick hits. It's a raw, unfiltered, pretty much unedited, honestly barely produced quick hit series. The target is to get you new full episodes of this show, this 2-ish hours, by month's end every month, and then to drizzle you with episodes of The Dispatch as they come up. So all of this is in service of our mission to keep the signal going throughout the year for our global burner community. So yeah, that's that. Let's dive in today. Today's episode is all about San Diego's maker/community space, CoLab. CoLab ain't that equal parts sweet and clever. Get it? Like CoLab, collaboration. We're going to hear the backstory of how the space came together, where CoLab was before, what it took to get it to where it is now, and why spaces like this are so crucial for our communities. Particularly right now. I don't know how deep we get into this now, but like we knew we wanted to do this episode. Like we knew we wanted to tell this whole backstory, but it didn't really quite hit me personally just how important this topic would be when we were planning it, and even when we were recording it, to be honest. Because as we dive into this next chapter of the reality simulation, which really seems to be fucking glitching, I'd personally love it if someone out there were to listen to this episode and it inspired them to take steps towards establishing their own regional community space, or helping out with the one you might already have in some shape or form. Because here's the thing, direct human-to-human connection, wow, I just glitched. Direct human-to-human connection is more important than it has ever been in our lifetime. Like I'm not exaggerating. I think, yes, that fucking pandemic really did an extra number on us as a community, being that ours is a population of folks whom I have found tend to lean more introvert, conscientious, and neurospicy. So just already like getting us out amongst each other, I think, is like an impressive feat. But right now, especially right now, with the unprecedented level of misinformation we're seeing and the rise in tribalization, we're already past that, I guess, that's happened throughout the default world. I am moved to call on all of us in our community to get the fucking fuck off of social media and take those extra steps to see each other in person as much as physically possible, to look into each other's eyes and to really foster the bonds that make our community as amazing as it is. And the most important way to do that is a physical space that we can rely on, one we've contributed to the fostering of in some shape or form. A space where we can gather, build together, and maybe even dance together after the day's work is done. Community spaces matter more than they ever have. I just can't hammer that in hard enough. I just realized I made a pun there. If you're like me, I'm always so proud of myself when I do that. If you're like me and you're trying to avoid the news so you don't crumble into a pile of hopelessness, here's something tangible we can do. Foster real, physical, in-person spaces where the algorithm can't manipulate us. I've been noticing something in many of the conversations I've had in the past month. If we base our awareness of the world solely on what mass and social media is telling us, we'd be missing just how much amazing shit is actually happening behind the scenes, behind the curtain, things the algorithm doesn't benefit from showing us. I've had multiple conversations with burners in the past month where we're seeing this uptick of folks just rolling up their sleeves by getting involved in one way or another to contribute to the foundations of their immediate surroundings. Volunteering, picking up the slack, reinforcing our sense of reality by addressing what we can address, dealing with the thing that's right there in front of us. Anyway, that's enough blabbing from me. That's why the story of the work you're about to hear is important. Today's episode was recorded on January 23rd, 2025 in San Diego. You'll be hearing the voices of CoLab's leadership team. That's podcast alum John Ray and Diane Hoffoss, along with first-timers on the show, Cecile, Vic, and Jay Good. We'll talk about how CoLab came together, the challenges they faced, and what the future looks like for CoLab and for community spaces like this, and what it takes to run a space like this. That's the most important part. And then we'll close out today's show with some music for one of CoLab's MVP supporters. That's Tomothy B, aka Tasty Tim. We'll hear some of Tim's set that he played at Disorient at Burning Man 2024. All right, let's fucking do this. Today's episode is entitled CoLab, San Diego's maker community space. I go by Mr. Arash, even though nobody calls me Mr. Welcome to Burner Podcast.
On the first part of the journey, I was looking at all the life. There were plants and birds and rocks and things. There were sands and hills and rain. The first thing I met was the fly with the bugs and the sky with no clouds. The heat was hot and the ground was dry, but the air was full of sound. I've been through the desert on a horse with no name. It felt good to be out of the rain. In the desert, you can't remember your name, 'cause there ain't no one for to give you no name.
It's like virtual reality experience. People are like in this. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
All right, let's do this.
We're doing it.
You ready? You ready, Jay? Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah.
I
You
figured out how we're gonna do this because we want to know whose voice we're hearing, right?
Yeah.
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 So we're gonna start with Jay Good, and you're gonna read a dad joke. You're gonna introduce yourself. You're gonna say
dad joke.
We should all read a dad joke.
absolutely. No, that's what we're doing.
I want a dad joke.
Okay, good.
That is what we're doing. We're gonna have you introduce yourself.
Do you-
You're gonna say one, possibly two sentences about yourself, and then
okay.
you're gonna read a dad joke.
You guys
okay?
didn't realize that it's
But
already
it
started.
should be
huh?
like the two sentences should be like collab related.
Yeah. No, honestly, just about yourself.
About myself.
About yourself. This might be a difficult hour and a half if you
All
don't
right.
want to talk about yourself.
I guess. All
right.
So we're gonna.
So everybody shut up, and then Jay Good is going to introduce himself, and he's going to say
Okay,
a couple of
all right.
sentences, and he's going to say that joke.
Okay. Hi, my name is Jay Good. I moved to San Diego in 2016 from the New York burner community, and was absolutely outstanding. Like, was amazed by CoLab and what was going on in San Diego, and it did not take long to kind of get sucked into that world. And also, why do bees have sticky hair? Because they use honeycombs. That's obvious. That should be obvious.
Excellent.
Why do you even have this, John? Why do you have this, John? It was a Christmas gift, but I got to say, it's one of the favorite Christmas gifts I've ever had.
It's a great coffee table thing.
Was that like,
That was fantastic.
that was good? Okay.
You did an amazing job. You did 3 sentences, but that's okay.
Was I supposed to do how many?
There was no supposed to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, but you're not talking in the mic, so nobody can hear you.
No, that's fine.
I
Yeah.
did it already.
Okay.
You did it already. All right, Vic, you do it. You're next.
Hey, everybody. My name is Vic, a.k.a. Jolly Rancher. I'm the managing director of CoLab, also the director for the Laser Lab. What do you call a pig that does karate?
What?
A pork chop.
Excellent.
It's terrible,
Excellent.
terrible. My name is John Ray. I'm the founder of CoLab, one of the founders of CoLab. And I was wondering if you guys know the difference between a piano and a fish. You can't tune a fish.
So much. What do they have in common?
John Ray, how many times have you been on Burner Podcast?
3 that I can remember, maybe 1 or 2 that I don't.
4, 3. We'll say 3 or 4. Fourth time, John Ray.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, we'll link to it. We'll link to all your past ones. Diane.
Awesome.
Hi, Diane Hoffoss. I'm one of the directors at CoLab. I'm the electronics lab lead and also the education lead. And my first art piece that I was ever part of was at CoLab. The last art piece that I was ever part of did stuff at CoLab. My heart is there. And I was wondering which hand is better to write with?
Left one.
Neither. You should write with a pen.
Excellent.
Hi, I'm Cecile, and I executive produced the last 3 Utopias, which is the regional Burning Man festival down here in San Diego, and I actually came by it because of my love for CoLab. So and I will like to read a terrible joke to you. Did you hear about the man who invented the knock knock joke? He won the Nobel prize. Nobel Prize.
I'm going to say the winner of this round is Cecile just for delivery. Oh, you didn't know it was a competition. It is.
We're always competing.
Yeah.
We're always competing.
Excellent.
When are you going to read the
None. I'm the host. They've had more than enough of hearing me telling terrible jokes on this show, I assure you. I want to start this. John Ray, let's start with what CoLab, what the fastest way you would have described CoLab is. Let's say you're on an elevator and you're trying to explain to somebody what CoLab is, what it was before, and then I'm going to shift over to Vic and have him describe how you would describe CoLab now. So let's start with the previous incarnation of CoLab before
Previous
the new location.
incarnation of CoLab. The way that I used to describe it was that it's a warehouse space where we had a whole bunch of fancy tools for artists to come in and use all the tools, and it was completely free for artists to use them. And then I would explain the funding from Utopia and go into more detail about it, but that's the concise answer.
Okay. And then Vic, how would you describe it now?
Right. So we've maintained that ethos, but kind of expanded it beyond the original, and as things like to evolve. So now we're an arts education space / maker space / community space, in service of not just burners in the community, but the San Diego community at large. Completely nonprofit, still maintaining that low barrier to entry for folks, because we want to promote all the things that we do.
Yeah. Did you? So I want to know I want to close that gap of where it was before and how it transitioned into this new incarnation. Yeah, that's probably a good one for you.
Yeah, I think Jay can talk about that one.
Yeah.
So it was a very interesting open space. There was a lot of great intention. Earlier on, I would start to come to some of the meetings, and as I started to take over as managing director, John Ray and I had a conversation about its heading, where we kind of want it to go, and the idea was really to try to bring it closer to a maker space, and go in that direction. So we expanded programs, we switched the router into something much higher end, awesome Pro 4x8 machine. We started an electronics lab. We started a screen printing department. And most importantly, we kind of focused on education. So getting classes rolling. But the space, moving into a new space was definitely a huge deal. And that's definitely something that Vic has done extremely well.
Yeah. Diane, you have built in the previous space.
Yeah.
And then now you're like in a leadership position in a new space.
That's the best.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about what the experience was in the previous space, and if you were even thinking about some of the stuff that you got into implementing in this new chapter or not?
So when I first got involved at CoLab, I actually got involved through the Journey Project. And they were doing their build there, and so they brought me there, and I was like, whoa, what is this place? And it just felt like such an amazing playground. Just I don't know, it felt just full of possibility, and there were so many people who knew so many things, and they were just happy to share. It just felt like it was a learning environment. Maybe it didn't have a formal education plan at the time, structure, right? But there really was. Everyone was sharing everything, and and it was also a little bit. I don't know, felt a little bit lawless, and I don't mean in the sense of like unsafe, but I mean in the sense of like it felt freeing.
Yeah.
It wasn't really like the makerspace at my school, for example. You know, you can just go make things and figure things out, and it was really lovely. Our new place is also very lovely, and we're but I think we're trying to be more intentional about it. And more intentional about especially about the classes that we offer.
Right.
So I remember when Jay asked me to be the education lead, and because I'm a professor, and so I guess maybe that's why you thought I would do that. And I remember.
And you know quite a lot about electronics.
Okay, I know. Yeah, okay. So I know.
A lot of LED projects.
Okay, that's okay. True,
I've been
true
wondering
story.
why they kept asking me to cook. I'm a photographer.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, fair enough, but yeah, I remember just thinking, I don't want to do any paperwork. And you promised no paperwork. Yeah. And guess what? There's been no paperwork. So
well, that actually just changed, I think.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's kind of my fault.
Yeah, it's kind of you. Yeah.
Wait, hold on. Why is there paperwork now?
Well, as we've kind of expanded the programs that we have at CoLab, there's a lot more complexity, right? We've got this lovely new space with a lot of resources, and we want to offer as much as we can to the community. Yeah. And that means just, like Diane was mentioning, moving slightly away from the lawlessness that was CoLab, and just kind of pick up and just do a thing, to being much more intentional and crafting a curriculum, and working with instructors and making sure that our classes are on point to what the community needs and what they can consume, and then take what they learn and then level themselves up.
Yeah.
We want people to be successful. So the part and parcel of that is, a lot of admin work.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, this is the thing about being on Playa and like people complaining about, hey, well, I used to be able to drive 100 miles per hour and shoot shotguns.
So the lawlessness that you refer to,
Sorry,
that was intentional. We were like, here's a blank canvas. Yeah. Let's just create this space, and whoever wants to come in and be a part of this can have a piece in like figuring out what we're going to do with it. And so there was a lot of different kind of like ideas and iterations. There was like judo classes at one point, and there was a glass shop, and there was like, anybody who wanted to get involved could bring their thing and do it there. And it's a sign of the maturing of an organization when you start to have more structure and more laws and more paperwork, yes. Because that means it's being successful. And if you need to have that kind of like, more rules or whatever around something, that just is a sign that it's like, being evolving the proper direction. So,
and to kind of build on that, like we were like honored on our first try to get the OSP grant, like art grant through the city of San Diego.
What is OSP?
Operational support program. Yeah. So it helps with operational costs because like this new facility is a lot more expensive. So part and parcel to that is we have a lot of metrics we need to track of like how to prove that we're contributing to the community in a very wow, I'm a loss for words. In a meaningful way, an intentional and meaningful way. But like there is something about the lawlessness, and like part of me always hungers for like how do we like still embed a little bit of that into, not a little bit, but maybe like have like a designated time or moment to still be lawless in some way, because it drives creativity and innovation and like inspires people and pulls people in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, that's correct. I want to come to you in just a second. I was going to ask how the previous incarnation was funded, so we can transition into that.
So yeah, and to John Ray's point, I watched CoLab go from safety third to safety second to safety first. It was not a gradient. There were these big hops, but I think how it was funded. I mean, it's generally come from the ticket sales of Utopia. I think when I was running the space, we pretty much didn't charge anything for classes until we realized that adding a $5 charge would make sure people showed up. But we really we were sort of careful with our resource usage. It was a little bit thinner, but we got lots of cool classes done. But the keeping the lights on and the rent and all that was ticket sales from Utopia, right?
Yeah, 100%. And that's where all of the funding came from at the first couple of years, for several years. And I remember sitting at a board meeting on the UCSD campus, and I brought the idea to the board, and we looked at it and was like, we were really bootstrapping. I think that the entire first year's budget for CoLab was $14,000. And so,
actually, the 2 years that I was like, there was a COVID year, but the 2 years I was running the space, my budget was like $2,500. Yeah.
Wait, for the year?
Yeah, for the year.
Yeah. I spend that on ice cream in a month.
The year before me, it was somewhere around 24,000.
Okay.
And aside from the CNC router, which was a dedicated item, the budget for the year was $2,400.
That's
and not rent though. But.
Not rent.
Okay.
But just the operating,
Yes.
Like,
so after rent and all of the overhead expenses, you had $2,500 for
the year.
Yeah.
And the board that you're referencing is the
San Diego Collaborative Arts Project.
Yeah.
I should remember I named it.
I love it. Oops. You forget quick.
So what happened that the previous CoLab needed to close?
We had an awesome space that was a real gift. There was a friend of mine who was a contractor, and he had this big shop space with some outdoor areas. And I was actually renting that space from him for my business, but then my business didn't need that space anymore. So he was giving me such a good deal that I didn't want to lose the space. So I came to him with the idea, hey, is it cool if we kind of do this lawless thing in the back with a whole bunch of artists? We'll only be here on weekends and late evenings. And they were so cool they were ultimately the reason that we were able to get it off the ground, because of the support that they gave us and the cheap rent. And so that lasted for how many years? 9 years, until they eventually, their business grew to the point that they needed that space back. So they gave us plenty of warning, and they felt really bad and all of that. But I think ultimately ended up being one of the catalysts for the evolution of the space and of the community that's built around the space.
We actually tried to go after a 2.0 together. Do you remember that? A couple of years before it closed, we met with the board, and we had a plan. And we were trying to pull off a CoLab 2.0. So just the fact that it did is so cool.
Yeah. You guys looked at a number of spaces, as I recall.
That's right.
Right towards the end, right? You guys did a number of weekend trips.
So tell me about that transition. So how did this team that I'm looking at come together? How do we get into modern day CoLab?
Oh gosh.
Well, as far as the staff is concerned, I think as we kind of started to accumulate, I consider it one of the larger Burning Man projects that happens. It happens all year round, and I don't want to say there's no drama, but it seems like there's no drama. Yeah. It's the coolest project ever. So the people who work in the space, this group, attracts people that care about the space, and the fact that people care about the space shows that they should be a part of the project. Yeah. And so there's a lot of love in the staff for the project. So
Yeah, and so when we got the word that we needed to move, and I think at that point, I had taken over management of CoLab at that point, and I knew by looking at the space and the way we were evolving, even at that point, that we had already outgrown the space. So like Jay Good and John Ray were already doing expeditions out to look for the new digs for us. And I had participated. I was doing my own searching too. But when we got the word, it was like, that your heart drops into your stomach and you go, butt nuggets. Can I curse on this podcast?
Absolutely, yes.
Oh fuck. Fuck shit, goddamn.
Piss, motherfucker.
But when I broke the news to everybody on staff at the time, there wasn't a single person that said, "Oh well, I guess this is done. We're dead." They were like, "Okay, how do we keep it alive? What do we do to keep this thing that we love so much, that we've put so much blood, sweat, and tears in, and is such a service to everybody that comes through the doors? How do we keep it going?" And the staff that we have now are, a lot of them were actually, part of CoLab 1, right? And so we searched and searched, and as pretty much anybody knows that's searched for commercial property, warehouse spaces, or build spaces that can take a project like ours, anybody can attest to how hard that is and how expensive it gets so quickly. I knew that the 4,000 square feet of space that we had was already not enough, right? So we were looking for larger. But in San Diego, it's expensive. We eventually, because we had to move out in 2 months' time, and let me tell you, cleaning up 8-9 years of artist cruft in 2 months is
Where did you put all that in the meantime?
Oh, there were many weekends and many days and nights of just cleaning out stuff and just getting volunteers to come out and just help and go through stuff, and then put it in a storage unit, borrow someone's storage unit, put it at someone's house. Yeah, I think I still have some of it at my house. But at that time, we were like, okay, I guess we can't find a place in time. We can't sign a lease. It's going to take 2 to 3 months to get this deal, whatever deal done. We're just going to throw it in a storage unit and hope for the best. We lucked out, and Jay actually introduced us to Shine, who was looking for someone to co-locate in a space that they had rented out.
Actually, the way that went down is that the day before we were going to put everything into storage, Riva made a post saying we were going to put our stuff into storage.
Oh, is that how that happened?
Yeah.
Oh.
And so Shine reached out to me. He's like, what's going on with this? And I'm like, exactly what it says. Like, we're going to pack this into storage for a little bit, and then we're going to find a new space and pull it all back out. And he's like, I have 1,100 square feet, 1,200 square feet of available space in Bankers Hill. Like, and it was that day. Like, I went down and saw him an hour later. I called you guys. You guys went down there, like, I think either same day or next day. And then we were moving in, like, end of next day. So what that did, being able, like, first of all, template, community, and Shine, like, that's such a huge service, because not being packed into a storage space allowed us the ability of going after grants, allowed us the ability of staying open, even for the small projects. There were a couple of large projects that actually somehow made their way through that space. It was insane. It was not easy to use. We had every department actually active, but it was packed down into a quarter of what it once was. And so the CNC router, the wood shop, Denise did such an amazing job with the wood shop, and we will always keep some of those elements. So yeah, it was good to be in that space, and I'm so happy we're not there anymore.
Thanks, Satan. So we moved into that 1,200 square foot space, and I was bound and determined, and everybody was bound and determined to make it work. And we did. It wasn't ideal. but as an evolution of the space and just keeping the vibe alive, keeping connection with the community, keeping our staff running, keeping the departments open, we wanted to do it. And so we came in, we moved in, we put our own touch to the place. Riva was amazing in beautifying the space and just making it work. But, as time went on, you quickly realize that there was a reason we were looking for a new space in the first place. And that was never going to be our forever home.
Wow.
So yeah, that was a tough evolution.
That's cool.
It wasn't even going to be really our temporary home.
Yeah, true that.
Let me ask you, Vic, what coming into the new space, based on like everything you'd observed and experienced in your role, what was something that you did not anticipate when you first come in that you would be noticing that you wanted to bring into the new space? Like, here's something that we're going to implement in the way that we operate and things that we're going to pay attention to that in the previous space, now we have an opportunity to do so since we're starting over in a new place.
I think when I looked at Diane and we were talking about classes and the limits that the space had, I realized, okay, now is the time when we find the new home, we need to evolve ourselves. And if we get to a space where we can have ample space for all of our classes and more space to move around and properly work in the departments, that's the time where CoLab is going to really start to blossom. And I think, both Diane, Cecile, and Jay were critical in helping me think through that and inspiring me to go like, okay, this place needs to grow. This place needs to be better than CoLab 1, CoLab 2 for sure. And I started calling it CoLab 3 because I wanted a version, the next version of, and that in my head kind of cemented the idea that, okay, this is going to be bigger and better and badasser.
Yeah. Can you expand on that at all, Dave?
Well, in terms of education, I think, so we started up with education right around the time the pandemic hit. And so we always had some spotty classes, like we had some laser classes, and then sort of on demand, somebody would teach a CNC router class, but we didn't really have a schedule. There was no structure really to it. And I'm not saying there wasn't structure to an individual class, but just there wasn't a curriculum really. And this is on me. But as soon as I sort of stepped into this role, we hit the pandemic, and then I was like, gosh, can we even have classes? And so I was thinking, what classes can I have that are outside? All our tools are inside. So I had some art things like a silk scarf painting class and a collage class and a.
What is that gesture?
I think the soldering class.
Soldering.
Oh yeah, that's
we
right.
did
I
that
did do
outdoors.
soldering outside. Yeah. So whatever I could do outside, but it never really. Things happened, but it never really sort of coalesced into something that felt like a curriculum. And then definitely at the smaller CoLab, I really struggled to, we had a couple of 3D printing classes, and it was just very tiny and cramped. And so when we had this new space, it just felt like this is the time. This is the time when I can really think what we need. And people are so excited for it. They're just coming from all corners of San Diego saying, I want to teach something. I want to be involved. What can I do? I can bring this. Yeah. And so right now I'm just trying to bring things on at a pace that I can do with sanity. Because it feels like there's so many things we can offer, and it's really exciting times.
Yeah. Cecile?
And then one of the most exciting aspects of the new place, and we actually did it a little bit at CoLab 1.0. Like, I think Jay Good actually was the one instigating that it could be an event space, actually. It could be a community space. And actually, John Ray, you helmed so many, meetings there where people just gathered, had barbecues afterwards,
that predates,
and such.
that definitely predates me as well. I think the events were baked into some of the.
Oh yeah, then there were poetry, slams and things like that too. But the new space is so primed for parties. It's so primed for as an event space. There's mezzanine balcony levels. We've had musicians come that were just so excited about the acoustics of it and the potential of how we can pack in the space and offer it to the community. It can be an art gallery, it could be a fundraising event, it could be a meeting space for someone that has a great idea to help with the community. So I don't know, it's just entering the space itself and how so much of our staff like beautified it and add so many different touches. Like it's just joyous and exciting to be in it.
So if we're not driving it home, you should come to CoLab.
John Ray, obviously since like the OG in the group, been around since like day 0. Other than like the
forefather.
Yeah, the Godfather.
I'm not that old, guys. Jeez.
Daddy John Ray.
The super really no. What? And I think like, can you call out anything that has not been mentioned yet that you could see as like the biggest difference between like the early days and where it's at now?
Oh boy, good question. Yeah, just the systems and the infrastructure that's built, the excitement around the community. There's just like so much more organization and lawfulness. And
They sound like a bunch of squares. Let me tell you.
I'm kind of hating this lawlessness.
It's not really that lawful.
Yeah, we try to maintain the lawless vibe.
it's a good vibe.
Do I get a pat down when I come in there? What's going on?
Only by request.
Pay extra for that.
I think that the events, though, that's definitely a thing that's evolved. It's the power of having an event in the space is that it brings in a lot of people who have never been to the space before, and then they see it and they get excited about it, just like a lot of people here did. And we didn't really start it with an idea of it being an event space. So we kind of knew that there could be events there, but it was like going to be a community center, and we were, wanting people to come in and build art projects. And but what it has kind of evolved into is a way to illustrate the power of an event and just getting people all in the same space and collaborating around it. And that was ultimately the reason that we wanted to start it, or the purpose behind it was to get two different people who maybe would never interact before into the same space, who are working on different projects, and then have them collaborate on that project.
That's what it meant. I never knew that. Wait, I'm just realizing this now.
I thought it was like a laboratory that's co-owned, like a codependent laboratory. Can I say, that in the previous space, when there were any sort of like gatherings and meetings, what it felt like was that it's like that when you're on an art build and then you take a break and have a beer and then like you get back, like that's what it felt like. The vibe felt like that. But yeah, in the new space, the thing I think that I'm appreciating about it is that, you get folks in there that are there for the event, and they are emotionally associating this space with fun. Mm-hmm. And like, so now, like when they're coming in, they're like volunteer and work and like doing stuff. It doesn't feel like, oh no, I'm going to work, so it's my shift. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, I'm going to a fun place. So I think that's an important part of update of the vibe.
CoLab parties have always had some like a weird synergy where they just always feel so warm. Like they always feel so good. And so, I mean, it just never fails when you put a party on at that space. People really come out. Like they get comfortable there. Yeah. So just to correct one thing, these days technically you can't work on a project, go have a beer, and come back to that project anymore.
Of course.
Once you have that beer, you're not allowed to come back to the project. But these are the simple things where it almost feels lawless, but it's not.
I love that.
I mean, as long as I don't see it.
Or the board hears this podcast.
It's what is it? Schrodinger's art project.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of see it. Did it happen?
It's actually kind of funny you mentioned that, because I was literally writing our policies and procedure updates right before I came up here.
Schrodinger's cat was included in there.
Do you still have the pages on creating a special event? So this is our workaround when we did go from like safety third to safety second.
Yeah.
This is something we crafted on the CoLab side, brought to the board. It's like, because sometimes, you're working with power tools and then you're tired, everybody starts chatting, and then you want to like turn it into like having a beer, right? Having a drink. So the idea is that at any point a director can turn CoLab from a work zone into a, what do we call it? It was essentially like, an event. Yeah. And so as soon as you switch over, all of CoLab is now a party. No tools can be used until the next day, or like you leave and other people who aren't involved in that.
Noted.
So it's kind of fun because it just happens naturally. Yeah. You're working on a project and then you're just like, all right, we're turning this off and starting to drink.
Yeah.
So I wanted to. I'll be the nerd of the group. So you said something about
you're
how
just starting.
Just now, yeah. So you said something about it, and I get that how you don't want people to come in and be like, oh, this is just a workspace. But I tell you what, when I went to CoLab 1.0, I was like, this is a workspace. Like I was excited. Work felt like a party. I mean, because all the people were so nice and fun and interesting, and it was fun to do the work. And I didn't need a beer for that. It was just like, it really did feel like I looked forward to going to CoLab because it was a nice, social, enjoyable thing. And then I also sort of did work while I was doing that. Yeah.
Kind of building on that a little bit, like I've said for a long time that I suspect that there's a higher rate of neurodivergency in the burner community.
1000%.
So for people like me, I need a task in order to feel like I have a purpose to socialize, and CoLab is that perfect combination of like learning something and doing a task and being around really fun people and socializing too. I did want to like tell one small story, and it was like Jay Good that allowed me to use the space like as an event space. But during the pandemic, my friend was diagnosed with cancer, and her treatments were like extraordinarily expensive even after insurance, and obviously she's not making much money. So my friends and I decided like to do a fundraising event. At first it was going to be a gathering, but then COVID, so we decided to turn it into a telethon. But we had like a variety show. We had multiple bands, we had things for auction, we had like comedy hours, we had musical acts, and like just like live sketches of like funny bits or whatever. And it was all because like CoLab just allowed us to use that space so that we could help our friend, and we ended up raising like thousands of dollars to help her with the treatment. So just an example of like some of the cool shit that CoLab has like fostered.
This is what this space should be able to do. Yeah. It should be able to support the community in the ways the community needs to be supported. So I mean, just the fact that I love being a part of it, but that's the model that it started on, and it's still got that. So it's pretty awesome.
So all right, I just want to do for this next chapter. Let's say I am in another region. I don't know. Let's pick a place in the world. Some place in the world that does not have their own makerspace or whatever, right? No, Reno has plenty of makerspace. Let's say I want to make my own. I want to get this ball rolling in my community. I don't know. We may or may not have a nonprofit board that's throwing our own regional. Like, where do we even start? I want to build a community space. Where would you recommend I begin this process? Vic, come on. You had something to say.
I think, it starts with people. Mm-hmm. That's your core. That's the thing that's going to keep you going. That's your support. Without the people that I work with on a daily basis at CoLab, we would not be able to do the things we do. Sure. There is no amount of money that can buy the love and dedication that we have here. 100%. I'm thinking about Denise now.
Yeah.
The people that I'm always inspired by good people with good hearts, and I feel like those people draw the same kind of energy and the same kind of vibe to them, and that's how you create that groundswell. You need to have that first. The rest will come with that as your core, right? And you maintain a situation where everybody's friendly, open, transparent, and there's no egos, there's no drama. That's how we maintain that, right? Everybody on staff, no egos. We do the work because we love it.
Yeah.
Actually, I might add to that. Look for the people. Look to include the people around you who work well with everybody they interact with. Because it's like if you can tell people who want to work on this project with you are good at interacting and just gentle with others, those are the kind of people you want to hold the carrot out and try to attract and bamboozle into the fold.
Yeah.
And
those are the people I want to gaslight.
And then surprise them with paperwork 3 years later.
All right. So I have a crew of 10 awesome people. We're vibing. What do we do next?
Machines.
I would say that in addition to having the people, which is definitely a vital component of it, there needs to be a strong and clear purpose and like a vision statement around it that the people all agree on. So like at CoLab, it was to create a community space where, people could come in and collaborate on different projects in order to change the world. And that was such a broad vision statement that it allowed for there to be events, and it allowed for there to be art builds, and it allowed for there to be classes and all of the tons of things that have happened at CoLab. But it's a very unifying statement. So it's not just a kind of fun group of people who are, maybe kind of wish-washing their way through figuring out what it's going to be, but it's like a very clear, this is why we're here, and having that clear purpose and vision statement is kind of like the guiding star. This is why all of the people get together, and this is why we're hanging out and putting in all the work and the sweat and the blood and the tears to make it all work. But I think it starts with that, and then you definitely got to get people around you involved. I mean, I get too much credit for what CoLab has become and everything, because I was just a small part of a really awesome team of people. Too many for me to even name. It would take a while to go through it, but Natural was.
Don't forget to drop Natural. I mean, he was the co-founder.
Yeah, Natural was.
Natural's been on the podcast.
Nash, nice work, man. We're thinking about you.
Yeah, he and I were definitely like left hand, right hand on the same body, and there was several other people involved, Meg and Brandy. And I don't want to start naming names because I'm gonna forget, because there's so many people that just have had such a big impact on it.
So many people. This space has been built by so many people.
Yeah,
it's like the number is staggering. Like a lot of people have worked on the project.
I want to use this as an opportunity to share a story that the podcast that we are amidst experiencing as we speak was actually born of that era. And it was specifically, I came into the community, and I, like as many people do when we discover our people, we become obsessed with what is the gift that I can bring? What is the thing that I can do, that I can bring here and help everybody? And I was watching all of these amazing builders and people who could actually do physical things in the physical world. And I'm like a fucking artist sitting behind a computer typing what am I going to contribute? I have nothing to bring here. And I met Brandy Magdalena at one of the meetups, and CoLab was just kind of getting kicked off, and she was saying that what you actually needed at that time was a fundraising video. And I was like, I could do a video. So I did that first video where had all the then chopped it together, shot it with my little Canon digital Rebel, and then from there I was like, I wonder if this is the gift that I can bring. I can do video interviews with people.
What was that first video for?
It was for CoLab. It was a fundraising video for the original CoLab.
Interviewed us.
Oh, that is so cool.
Yeah,
I forgot about this. This is awesome.
I forgot all about it till we started preparing for this podcast. And I was like,
there?
No.
Oh, okay,
this is before you came from New York.
Okay,
yeah,
awesome. I want to see this.
We
Where is it?
will link to it.
Yeah.
100%. We will link to it.
This is in the first few months of CoLab's existence.
Wow. Yeah. So I put this video together, and it's adorable and cheesy.
that was the first one.
Yeah.
That you ever did.
Well, this is what it was. I just did a fundraising video, right? And then afterwards, I was like, man, everybody's here is really fucking awesome. I want to tell their stories. I guess I could just try doing video interviews with people. And then I tried a couple. I did one with Natural. I think I did one with Meg. I did one with somebody else too. And the immediate thing that hit me is this is 45 minutes and I have no idea how to cut this down to a 5-minute video because it's all interesting. Everything you're saying is interesting. Your life is interesting. I want to cover these stories. And then one day it hit me, I could do a podcast. Then we just talk for an hour and a half and I don't have to edit any of it.
That's a creative way to get out of editing.
Absolutely. Mostly lean into the lazy. That's my advice. Whatever your laziest approach is, that's your signature.
I love that.
Yeah. So that's how Burner Podcast started.
That is amazing. That's really cool. That's awesome.
The nexus of everything.
CoLab. It started right there.
I think that's, to piggyback on what you're saying here, that's the beauty of CoLab. We provide space, opportunities, and people and connections for people to really stretch themselves in ways that go beyond their average everyday life. When I came into CoLab, I had gone to my first burn, and this is one of my favorite stories to tell. I got to my first burn, and came back, and I'm like, oh man, that was so cool. I'm so inspired by all the art. And at the time, I was legitimately a corporate zombie. I did my 9 to 5, paid my bills, did all the things, complete fucking square. I did not touch the artistic side of my brain at all.
I would never look at you and think that.
Well, see, that's the evolution, right?
Yeah.
Like, I am way different now because of CoLab, 100%, and the burn. But I came back and I was like, I need to figure out how to make art. I don't or maybe get in touch with the burners because these people are amazing. I found CoLab, took a laser jewelry making class from Terry, and was inspired, and that opened up. It was like someone took sunglasses off my head and just said, "Here's a horizon. Go do that."
You spent more time in the laser lab than most of the people who've used that laser. So,
I got obsessed. There's no lie.
it was beautiful.
Some of the most special things to me about what's come out of CoLab is the relationships that have been built there. Because not only is it like an amazing community and just like that whole dynamic, but there's like personal friendships. Even there's been children born out of relationships that started at CoLab.
I was like, wait, there are children born at CoLab?
Not at CoLab. Or maybe
that class is
conceived
coming
at
in the
CoLab.
fall, by the way.
Fall 2028.
I know there's been plenty of baby making.
I was gonna ask.
Diane and I had the conversation about this when we moved into space.
Are there any bylaws against that?
Not that I know of.
Actually, I wanted to something that you said. So this isn't like first several steps in. This isn't the first 1, 2, 3 steps in making a makerspace, but I really think this is important. So you mentioned taking a class where you made jewelry, and I think that this is sort of my main philosophy in education is, I think there are a lot of people who would be really excited to make a thing, but they don't know what thing, and they don't know what the tools can do. And so I feel like a really great way to pull people into the community, to tap into, to open up their creative side, is to say, well, we're having this class, like I do a soldering class, and then at the very end of the class, you make your own LED pendant, and then you have a thing, and then that can make people think, oh, I could use this to make a different shape, or I could use this to do, and I feel that same way with the laser class, and I really want most of our classes to end with a little project to be kind of an inspiration, like a first step that people can take into.
Yeah.
going further.
So it's not like just practicing a movement. It's like a I don't know. An end goal is coming out of it. You're getting a research paper out of it. You're getting a book out of it.
Yeah, and it's something fun you can bring home and look at and be proud of. But it's also I hope anyway that it's just a catalyst. I hope that it acts as, well, this is something that I could do with, especially when I do that eventually with interdisciplinary classes.
We did one of the there was one of those in 2019, I think. It was between screen printing, laser, LED. Oh yeah, you were a part of that. Yeah. I was supposed to be there, but it was misscheduled and I was in Florida. So it was awesome, and people took home these lamps. Like, that's such a badass thing to bring away from a multi-disciplinary class. So I think more of those in the future for sure. I also like the idea of different classes kind of letting out at the same time, and those people like kind of mingling and talking about what they just did. Like I've always thought that stacking classes so they end at the same time and possibly do a social thing after will amp that synergy up a little bit.
Totally. That's a great idea.
Cecile?
What like one of the things I love is like it lowers like so I got introduced to CoLab because like I took a class with Martin Iwanowicz like on CADing to figure out how to use the CNC router, and then he was the one that kind of coached me through it. Like he troubleshooted all of the CNC routers, so by the time I did my project, no material was wasted. I knew how to troubleshoot everything. It was just a smooth process. But like I just sat there and was like, wow, I'm using a freaking CNC router. I didn't even know I had access to a CNC router, first of all. But then like to be able to like proficiently use it and then make a huge art project that I can share with people was like so much fun. And CoLab lowers that barrier to like, you didn't realize you had access to all these industrial grade machines that you can just learn and use. And like, it's crazy. It kind of opens up all this possibility of like, how do I tap into my creativity? What can I make? What can I combine and like fabricate with other people and do something bigger than I could have like thought like before I knew CoLab existed.
Yeah. So I was actually going to ask you this question. What would you say is the next step after you come up with an amazing vision statement?
I honestly think the 501c3 is important. It like, you know, it really helps an organization in a lot of ways. It gives you discounts with a lot of programs. Like, you know, like it obviously helped us like, I think, get our foot in the door with like the OSP grant, you know, like it really kind of gives you legitimacy in a lot of ways. And like
even like amongst the people, like as you're activating community, as you're activating volunteers, having the 501c does like, I don't know, it makes it feel more real.
Yeah,
would you say?
The formation of the 501c also includes a required board that kind of has oversight, and and bylaws as well. And so it kind of forces you to think about, okay, what's our mission, like John was saying, but also what are our policies, you know, who's going to be advising us, who's going to be looking over our shoulder, making sure that we just don't set up something where someone chops us a finger, you know, or gets us in trouble with the law because we just didn't know, you know. That's terribly important. I agree with Cecile 100%.
I mean, how long does it take to get a 501c?
I think so a 501 -C3, right? That's what we are.
Yeah.
So it's it needs to have more than one member. It needs to have a president. It needs to have specific timed meetings and bylaws. And I think the application process is probably not that difficult, but I actually haven't done it. Did you do the 501c3 application?
Yeah, what was interesting about that process, and we learned a lot, is that we wrote out this whole, all these bylaws about how we wanted the entire community to run and how everything was going to be. And it was all very based on consent and consensus. And then we took it to the lawyer, and the lawyer's like, what is this garbage? Like, he's like, you guys can't do this. Like, this isn't how the law works.
What were you smoking when you wrote
You
this?
bunch of fucking hippies. What is this?
Is this written on blotter paper?
I mean, we literally just had to throw all of that out and just do a boilerplate law, you know, because there's like a way that the law works, and you have to have certain.
Can you give me an
things.
example, like of just for my own entertainment?
Yeah,
Some part of it.
Well, the biggest thing I think was consensus. We were going to have everything run through the bylaws by consensus, and so that means that any one person could hold up the entire thing. But that just doesn't jive with how the law actually works.
And how do you, if you were going to start another CoLab, would you think that would be a good idea now?
What, the consensus?
Yeah, like full consensus. Do you think it could work?
Well, we ran it functionally with consensus, but the bylaws, are different than how we actually ran it day to day.
Okay.
I'm not sure how it runs now as much because I'm not as involved as much, but. For definitely the first, 5-6 years, consensus was really difficult, but it led to better decisions, I feel.
Yeah. And we are talking about the SDCAP board, the San Diego Collaborative Arts Project board, not necessarily the CoLab staff structure, because we've got directors on our side, and in fact, now we do actually. And there was a time when we wanted to separate SDCAP and CoLab, just so there was a little bit of checks and balance.
Yeah,
but
we were going to divorce them.
Yeah, I mean it's possible, but the fact
You're
that
separated.
there's actually the team on the SD cap side is pretty awesome too, and so it's allowed so much great great advancements. The fact that everybody on both sides are just working so well together.
Yeah, and I think that's super critical to have a board and backing, because the SD cap is the one that actually hosts and runs Utopia. Right, and we are one of the projects under the SD cap umbrella.
They're the nonprofit.
They're the nonprofit,
Right.
and so by inheritance, we get that. But the board, in its current form, is super supportive of the mission of CoLab. Wants to see us succeed. We're all pretty much on the same page as far as direction. There's some nuance. I'm like, oh, we could do this, or we could do that type of thing. But those things usually get sussed out, when we work on them. But having a board that has your back, wants to make it work for you, but also trusts you to do the right thing. We have a lot of leeway when it comes to CoLab and the things that we do. The board will come in and give us advisement, like, oh, what about this? Or can we do this instead? Or can we maybe add this to the pile of things? And then I, put my head in my hands and go, yes, we can do that.
Did they ask you to post your DJ lineup?
DJ Blue Balls.
That was
Sorry, I had to get that one in there.
Inside joke for the listeners. I'm just going to not explain it because it'll be funnier that way. Continue.
Yeah, let them guess at it.
Let your imaginations
It's
run
definitely
wild.
not going to get any funnier if you explain it. That's for sure. I heard the joke.
Yeah. I want to know this. When you were choosing the location, can you tell me about what that process was like? Did you go communicate with the neighbors before, going like, is this going to work for us, to having a space like this here?
Shoot first, ask questions later.
Yeah. All right. Fair.
Yeah. I mean, that from CoLab to when we moved in was about, well, I started looking even before we moved into CoLab 2, but I time it out as about roughly 2 years before we actually found the space. And it was...
And our real estate agent is a burner also, which is freaking amazing.
So we found
we
support
go.
that way, right? We'd gone through a couple people, and they weren't right fits, and we finally found this person, and we knew we found a warehouse space that was very blank canvas, but because it's a commercial space and we operate in off hours, we typically don't disturb anybody when we're running operations. Now that we're kind of evolving and expanding our curriculum, there will be daytime classes, but finding a space that's not close to residential was critical. Finding a space that actually had high ceilings with roll-up doors so we could move art in, critical. Finding space that actually had space, funny enough, it was critical. Our neighbors, we sort of lucked out in that they're totally copacetic with us. You do the neighborly things, like when you first get there, you introduce yourself, tell them what you're about, tell them, okay, we got tools where we'll do our best to keep it down in operating hours, or let us know if it becomes egregious. And we've done things at CoLab during our build out to try to minimize noise or actually try to encapsulate it into specific areas. Not just to help our neighbors, but also to help the rest of CoLab as it operates. Yeah. And Diane was super, super helpful in helping us think about that and go like, hey, we need to think about this. We need to worry about dust. We need to worry about sound getting to the classroom, because then the instructors can't teach. And Diane, you can talk more about that.
I love how you phrase it as helpful rather than was such a pain in my ass. But I did really harp on this quite a lot, and because I remember it at CoLab 1.0, the kitchen area where we would sometimes have classes was right next to the CNC router, and there was a window in between, and it was just so loud.
Everything was right next to the CNC.
Yeah, literally, she's not kidding. There was the CNC router, maybe 6 feet of space, and then the wall and window for the kitchen. So it was ridiculous.
Yeah, and I remember having meetings, and even as far as the Journey project, like they'd be in there running the CNC router to make pieces for the journey, and then we'd be trying to talk about the LEDs, and we just couldn't hear anything. And so I was thinking, if you want to take education seriously, then we have to take the noise abatement seriously.
I can't hear CNC router and not think about CNC Music Factory from the 90s.
Yeah.
Just want to say that.
It's pretty much the same thing, really.
Yeah. All right. That's so interesting. Like, a lot of the thought that's kind of popping up for me is that I know we still have like cities. I've personally visited places where burners are not as welcome. It's like we're used to it. We're in San Diego, like it's Southern California. Like there's this large.
Burners not welcome.
I can tell you that when I was in Texas, there was still like.
What was in my head. That was literally what was.
You were gonna say Texas?
Texas.
Yeah, I remember when I was there was still like for example, like they're very, very focused on ensuring that like everyone who's in a photo has like given consent to be in that photo. Like, and I've had like friends who have moved to Southern California from Texas, and they described like they were like surprised at how much more open burner culture is here, because over there they were like a lot more. Yeah, you can still get fired from your job for like being caught at burning.
That is insane.
Yeah, that's pretty nuts.
Yeah.
Yes.
But then you don't have that job that would fire you for being a burner anymore.
yeah.
So it just sort of solves itself. Right?
It
It's
helps.
kind of a blessing, I'd say. Yeah.
I'm luckily in the line of work because I'm a designer where like if you are in Burning Man, you're more inspired and you
Yeah.
bring more to your profession. So
You get to be the weirdo artist. They love it. Yeah.
Actually, I've said this before, but I'm a professor at a Catholic institution, and I was actually
Yeah.
quite worried about them finding out I was a burner. And
I want to
then-
ask you about that.
Yeah, and then through a lot of, there was a learning curve, but at the end of this, now they put images of our art pieces on their front page of their website, and
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
yay. So they totally embrace that. They give us space to do our build, and they contribute some money. Catholics are burners too, I guess.
Yeah, they even did an interview with you.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
actually they've done a couple interviews
Yeah.
with me about the art. Yeah, they're actually really, really into it now. They've really embraced it.
I love it.
yeah.
Catholics for Burning Man.
Can we shout out Sethi and Devadas though?
We should totally shout
All
out
right,
Sethian. Yeah.
Sethian, we're shouting you out right now.
Fuck yeah. I want to know, all right, you've got your space. You've talked to your neighbors, even though if you're in San Diego, it turns out you didn't until after you got the space. Yes.
One more point on that one. As in my role, I get a chance to meet with a lot of makerspace people and people that run their own makerspaces, and I hear the problems. Like, literally, the neighbors hate them, the community hates them, or they don't get along, they're too noisy. They're weirdos, they're hippies, they're fuck offs, whatever. One of the things that we looked at when we were moving or were looking to move was maybe we should go into an arts district. And that's a suggestion that I might have for folks out there. Look for your local hub of art and try to get, if you're not already, integrated with that community. And that might open doors on spaces that will be friendly to spaces like ours. We almost moved into a 10,000 square foot warehouse just south of downtown San Diego.
Oh, wow.
The deal fell through, unfortunately. But that was going to be part of the creation of this arts block neighborhood that kind of rivals one of the existing ones down here. But it didn't work out, but it would have been lovely. And I think that kind of thing, that direction, is something that people should explore.
Yeah. Oh, that's really good. That's really, really good advice. That's actionable. I want to know if there's something that you could go back and do differently. Like if you could, I don't know, even execute it sooner in this process. Yeah. What do you got?
I think honestly, I mentioned tools earlier. Try to target a few user-friendly tools. A CNC laser is a big one. The CNC laser at CoLab has brought most of the people who've been to CoLab to work on one of the tools into the lab. And the month or two, typically, before we actually, we're getting everything back online, but before we got out of our first space, the 2 months leading up to Burning Man, it was booked solid. The 2 weeks before Burning Man, there were people asking to be there 24 hours. Like we had them running overnight.
Yeah.
We stopped that because we don't want to get calls at 3 a.m.
Also safety.
And also probably safety.
Also safety. But that's third. Don't worry about it.
But yeah, exactly.
Maybe fourth.
But really, the CNC laser is a two-dimensional. It's a CNC tool that's only two-dimensional. So you can use vector software to do your art. And the like iteration is so quick with the CNC laser, it allows you to really feel like you can get warmed up into some of the stuff, like some of these education pathways. So a nice laser, even if it's just a 50 watt with a decent sized bed, that's a great place to start because they're cheap.
Yeah.
And you just teach classes, get people access on the laser, and you can get people through the door.
Yeah.
Expand that to other tools.
Yeah, and I agree that the laser. When we say we have a laser, people go, "Oh my gosh, you have a laser? I've always wanted to work on one or use one." I'm going to piggyback on what Jay Good said here. Is that's great, but I would also say if you're just starting out and you've got this idea for a space that's going to evolve into something like ours, right? And I'm not saying we're at that pinnacle. Like by no means, we have a lot more growing to do, but if you want to do something like this, and you've gathered a good core group of people, take a look at what they're good at. Take a look what they know and who they know that knows things, that can teach things, and then lean into that.
Yeah.
Really lean into that, because that's going to be your bread and butter, right? You can learn to use a laser. You can learn to use a screen printing machine, but the thing that people are going to come to you for and really get value from are things that like Diane promotes, which is people that have experience in CAD or Illustrator or know how to do screen printing right off the bat, and they can teach that. And so you start immediately having the ability to teach people things and start to inspire them.
Yeah. When I'm putting together any team, I like look at like what is it that you're good at? What are you into? And then what is it, or is there a direction that you've always wanted to go in that you can't go at work and you're just itching for it? You can come do it here. Is Cecile running outside after the dog?
I think she is. She's just chasing the dog. Hi, doggo.
You're like running outside. Yeah. So that's the fun of, like an example. It's silly, but like one of the examples that always pops into my mind was a few utopias ago. We were camped with, Saint had and he had like a crew with them. I forget the other two guys that were with him, and like they set up these like just spectacular like tent structures, and they had like liquid drum and bass playing there all weekend, and
I needed to be there.
Gorgeous. Like it was just breathtaking. I remember just like gushing about it every day. I'd look at it, and I talked to them about it, and they were like, yeah, we do this professionally, but like here's where we get to like go nuts. Like it's not, the client is not saying this is what I need, It's like we're just going to do what we would love to do and what we think you should be doing. And like that's what I always see with burner culture at Burning Man, in all these like side projects and stuff that we do. You come in here and you can try it in the way that they're not letting you do it in the office. So this is where you get to like take it, like open her up, take it on a test drive and see how far you can push it.
And that's one thing that we've kind of danced around it a little bit. We've talked about arts education, service to the community, but the thing that we all, the John Ray and Jay Good and our forebearers kind of stood up, and what I thought was originally the mission for CoLab when I first got there was like, oh, this is a place for artists to come and build art, and it still is, right? That's definitely still part of our DNA and our mission statement. And the thing, what you reminded me of just now is we allow artists to build art when they don't have the ability to have space or access to tools.
Yeah.
And what that does is that it rolls down into artists coming in and building cool projects, but also needing help. And then we've got a community that can support that and people that want to learn. So then you get that, and you pair that with arts education. You get the artists that help teach the people how to do things. They get inspired. They come and build their own art, yada, yada, yada.
So there's one thing I would like to add to that, which is when SDCAP used to grant funds to artists, if the art was built at CoLab, part of the condition, one condition of this was that we had to post the build days on the calendar, and any of those build days they did at CoLab, anyone who showed up, they would like be required to accept and put to work. Like, so anyone could like look and find a civic art project on the calendar, typically in the couple months leading up to Burning Man, and not even say anything at all. Just show up there and kind of ask like how they can help. And, maybe you're going to be sweeping or something. But if if you're inclined to learn something that's going on in that project, and you're nice about your approach, I'm sure it didn't take a lot of people very long before they were immersed in something that they didn't have access to otherwise.
Oh yeah.
So this is something I really hope we continue to do. And anyone who has a project that's done at CoLab, even if it's not granted, it doesn't have some sort of funding support from SDCap, consider making sure you're on our calendar and realize that that'll lead to people showing up to work on your project.
Yeah. And to any listeners who are not trying to start their own CoLab, would you get a lot of folks who are beginning to explore the culture and they're trying to figure out how they're going to go to Burning Man or go to a regional? I always say, do this. Go get involved with our project. Go volunteer somewhere. At your thing, whatever there's an art project happening in your town, at your version of CoLab, go get mixed up in that, and you'll immediately have all the friends. You'll figure out all the situations. If you're trying to get a ticket, the ticket is going to get helped figure it out for you. Back when tickets were hard to get. So all of those things, go, for lack of a better description, go get an internship and get in there. And all of that opens it all up for you in the most amazing way. You're pointing at Diane.
Yeah.
Well, so it's interesting the way you describe that, Jay, because I think about it from the exact opposite point of view. So I was one of those people who got a grant from SDCap to bring an art project there, and I was given 10 by 20 space to put a carport and to keep all my build stuff there, which was just amazing. And I didn't think of it as, I had to have these open build days. I thought, what a great place that I can ask Nicole, hey, just put out in your burner announcements, this is when we're going to be there to build. And people would just show up. Every time I was there, people that I didn't know would show up and be like, I want to help you on your project. It was magical. It was like I'm feeling teary-eyed thinking about how beautiful it was to just know that people were going to show up, and they would always just be like, I just want to contribute to something. I just want to be a part of something. And it just felt great. And you could just ask them, what do you know, what do you want to learn? And you could always find a part. I mean, this was actually a really big and complex project, so there were plenty of little pieces to get people on, but you could still, but there was always something you could find, can you paint at least, or can you just clean this up, and I feel like that's a really, really beautiful thing. So I wouldn't really think as, if I were on the other side of it, are they going to accept me? Well, they have to accept me. I would like to say that from the artist's point of view, we're so stoked when you show up and be a part of it. It's that's just the best feeling. It's such a gift.
To make sure that artists didn't exclude people from the community from being able to participate, right? So, and I think that's good to have too. But yeah, you're right. Absolutely, people want to come and help, and artists are super overjoyed to have help.
If that sounded rigid, it was actually just because that's sort of the structure in the grant. If that sounded rigid, kind of my initial the ways, it's because it was sort of structured like that in the grant when it was given from SDCap. So, but yeah, the from the artist's perspective, please come help. And you don't have to reach out. You don't actually have to ask. Look at the calendar, see where there's civic art projects, and come down and help.
Yeah.
I mean, we had more than 80 people involved, and about 30 of them were from USD, but that means 50 of them just came out of the community. People some that I knew, mostly that I didn't know.
Yeah.
And the amazing thing is they didn't just show up once; they kept coming back.
Yeah. It was really wonderful.
Yeah. No, I've definitely been in many meetings and builds and stuff where a person shows up, or never met this person before, had no idea that they were a burner in San Diego, and now they're over here taking care of this thing that we've been trying to fix for 3 weeks. And then you see them later at Utopia or on Playa or something, and wearing a tutu and they're dancing. You're like, hey, there you are.
In normal burner uniform.
Yeah. Normal on Tuesdays. Is there anything you can think of, just whatever randomly comes up, not in any sort of particular order, for folks out there thinking about wanting to get like a space going for their community that we have not discussed?
One thing that occurs to me, and I'm not sure if this is actionable advice, but still has been occurring to me. So I don't really know how the bootstrapping process happened, but once some people know that we're a makerspace, we have people regularly offering tools to us, and we've had so many tool donations. I have so many 3D printers, and somebody's offering another laser, and so
that's how the screen printing department started. After Utopia in 2018, we made a post to the community. What would you like to learn next? Screen printing or like LEDs, like working with LEDs and microcontrollers. And that poll did really well, and they were both the same, and a lot of people contributed. So we did both.
And you're dead on. And so the thing is, the space costs, tools cost, upkeep of tools cost. I think we are constantly asking for donations. So when you're thinking about building creating a space like ours, the funding plan is critical. How are you going to stand up this place? But then how are you going to sustain it? What's your model? We survive, like we said before, from funds from Utopia, and we're blessed that way. Not every community is going to have that. Yeah. What we're looking at for the future, because we kind of recognize that, okay, just relying on Utopia is just not, it's not where we want to go for the future. Yes, that's great money, and we're blessed to have it. But we're going out for large donations from the community, sustaining donations from community members, like $10 a month. That adds up super quick. Yeah.
What's the most successful fundraising approach that you've had so far?
The OSP grant, no doubt, right?
Yeah, the OSP grant from the city was one that netted us, just under $20K for the year.
So
we're going
put some energy towards grant writer.
Absolutely.
Got it.
Absolutely.
I mean, one of the things that bolstered us being able to get it is we needed to show that we had revenue to fund the operational costs, and we weren't crutching just on the OSP grant. And the fact that Utopia, which is run by SDCAP, was such a great source, kind of helped us get that also. Yeah. So it isn't like you can just only rely on grants. You do have to show them that you're putting in the footwork to find ways to get money in for operational costs.
Yeah, the same way that we can get art grants, like either SDCAP wants to see or the org wants to see that you are putting in your own fundraising as well. I just find your whole thing.
Another thing that people can do, and we haven't really stepped up to this one, is co-create programming with local schools, local education institutes. STEM, STEAM, not the gaming platform. But they will often come to the table and say, "Hey, look, we have X amount budget for this. We need a program. You guys seem like you're headed in the right direction. Can we work with you on this one?"
STEAM. What is STEAM stand
STEM.
for?
It's STEM. STEM.
No, but the STEAM is also used. The A's for art.
Okay.
Oh, it's A's for art.
Today,
Science, technology,
yeah.
engineering,
Yeah.
art, math.
Okay.
Today I learned STEAM is a legit
STEAM is
thing.
legit.
I'm thankful that's a
I
thing.
read
actually.
it in the STEAM journal.
Oh, what the heck?
No way. Yeah,
Wow.
True story.
Today I learned a second thing.
Can't believe you were leaving the art out.
Yeah, that would be me.
I don't know how it works either.
Oh, this is great. I gotta just say, a lot of doing this podcast, I get choked up for the exact same thing that you were just getting choked up at, Diane. Watching our community just rally, and from a decade of semi-professionally studying burners and especially in different cities and different places, this, what we have here is incredibly fucking magical. To have a maker space where and community space where your community can show up and you can learn things and you can connect, and as an artist to be able to invite people to a space at a certain time in a certain place in the physical world, it opens up so much more opportunities for you. You can build bigger, you can get more creative, and it's pretty amazing Like it's pretty fucking magical. And I really want to, I hope my dream scenario would be that in a few years, enough people have listened to this episode and a couple of other ones have started as a response to folks hearing this story and going, man, our city we should start one over here. And then like, that's gonna blow up your burner community. More people are going to show up. You're going to get more people together. It's going to be amazing. And yes,
I would love to just vibe off of that a little bit and tell the any listeners that are listening to this, you don't have to have it all figured out from A to Z. Just start. Like, just get your idea out there. Get other people involved. Other people will help you figure out the problems that you have to overcome. And there's plenty of people with lots of brilliant ideas out in the world, but the people who are actually like successful in creating stuff like this are the people who just take action. And so just take action, get it started, invite your friends over, tell them you have this idea and see what they think about it. And you'll be surprised because people will step up. They'll want to get involved. They're going to solve the problems that you weren't even thinking about. There's going to be problems that you don't even know that you don't know.
Yeah.
There's problems.
100%. Yeah.
And the people who help you get it started will help you solve all those problems. So don't let having to figure out everything out from A to Z and have the perfect plan together. Don't let that stop you from taking action. Just get off your ass and start doing it.
Yeah. Set a destination. And an expert is simply one who has made every given mistake in a very narrow field.
So I have one other bit of secret sauce to and advice, and that's actually something that Cecile heads up for us here, who's in charge of marketing for us.
Yeah.
So you have this great idea. You've got these friends. Maybe you found a space, and you've got a funding plan. You've got a business plan. You've got a board. You've got a nonprofit. All the things we've mentioned, right? The thing that I found surprising, and it still surprises me today over the years, is every event that we hold, every class that we hold, I will get at least one person come to me and go, I never knew you guys existed. I've lived in San Diego for like 20 years and I didn't know this place existed. I live right down the damn block. Okay, so obviously we need to get the word out about us. And you need to jump on socials, as evil as they fucking are. Sorry, editorializing.
No, I'm with you. I hate social media.
Yeah.
I get it.
But that's the devil detail, right? You need to get word out. We grew just by largely word of mouth and burners talking and burners being curious and just coming and showing up. There was some social posting that happened, but not to the point where we're trying to grow it, where we want all of San Diego to know about us and we become a larger hub for art, right? That's the dream.
Yeah.
That's where we really go and start going, okay, let's move into a 20,000 square foot facility because we need it. I didn't tell you guys that, but that's my dream. Actually, it's larger than that. But people like Cecile who are great at doing this kind of thing and super detail oriented.
Storytelling.
Yeah, storytelling. They're Cecile, talk. I don't know why I'm talking for you.
Because I want to know. No, I'll ask her because I've been waiting to figure out to get to this part. In fact, because there was not too long ago, there was the San Diego community was like not doing so hot. Like the fact that we even have this happening, and I think like for me, like it's always been the big thing. Like don't take for granted how amazing it is that we have what we have. Like stick with it. Like keep building it. So I want to know, Cecile, if you can like touch on that chapter and how we got to here.
So I think I came by this community through Utopia, and then obviously I worked with CoLab, and then the pandemic happened and everyone got their ants in their pants. and then we, Utopia was stalled, and then we unfortunately the 2022 Utopia had to be postponed for, just a different variety of reasons.
There was a big bunch of things that happened. There was a location thing happened. Yeah. There was,
and I think everyone had been so cooped up during the pandemic that like they felt that they were this festival. Or they were so looking forward to it. Is what it really was, and they and the disappointment was palatable to the point where they were like, burn it all down, like just let it die or whatever. Like SDCAP can die, Utopia can go away, and I was like, No, I was like, our grandpapa, John Ray, and Nat
I don't
great-
even have gray hair.
Our great
our
grandfather,
forefathers
Daddy
built
John
this
Ray.
foundation.
our ancestor John Ray.
Like the foundation of which they built the community on, and how many people they reached and garnered, and like it's spread. You know, like I think I even talked to like Unscrews, and they said that they based the consent portion of their website on our website. You know what I mean? Like, so like the ripples of what we've affected and laid the foundations for, like that is not something that you throw away. And as I kept talking to people that were like so fired up and upset and just angry, what I realized, and I think I've kind of told, especially the people here, is like my ethos was also always, you can't hate something so much unless you loved it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? And if they loved it once, like it's still there and we can bring it back. So it was just really, really important to kind of get that message out there. A lot of it is, most of people's anger is they just want to feel heard. That's literally it. It doesn't mean you have to battle them. You don't have to even agree. You just have to like listen to them and then validate their feelings, because the feelings are valid, you know? So
Hold space.
hold space. And once we got past that step, then we were able to go like, okay, how do we reimagine what the burner scene looks like in San Diego?
How did you
after
do
the
that?
Pandemic.
How did you hear?
I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know. Honestly, like I'm a raging extrovert, so I do have a lot of stamina to talk to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so that's literally all it was. I talked to a lot of people. I talked to people over like the comment section, even when they were really upset, because I wanted to hear their story and eventually after they told their story, then they got to something that they really loved about Utopia, and it reminded them of it. And I had a lot of talks over DM. I reached out to like people that like, you know, like the community can be a little fickle and just be like, like excommunicate this person, or this person like stepped out of line. But I reached out to freaking everyone and talked to everyone, because everyone's experience is important and it's something to build upon, and it feeds and informs like how you can build a richer or better or like just evolved way going in the next step.
So interesting, because as a lot of that was happening when we were having conversations during COVID, like how do we, Jesus, it's gotten messy here, how do we fix it? And I remember I kept saying like, what we need is a public information officer. Like somebody needs to literally go out and have 10,000 conversations. I know. And like we are most of us are pretty introverted. Like most burners, in my opinion, in my observation, pretty introverted. We're not shy, but like, you know, we dive into the deep end. So the fact that you like took on, like you did that role, I didn't know that was like a background detail. It makes complete sense that that's a major part of the secret sauce of how we've gotten here.
But it was very like there was no rhyme or reason. I was just kind of doing what I've naturally felt like needed to be done.
Yeah.
I don't think I really logged anything per se, but I kind of absorbed and just listened to everyone.
No. That's an important figure for listeners. Get one extrovert in your group. To go ahead and talk to everybody. And that's massive.
Yeah.
That was amazing and huge, and you worked tirelessly on that. I can't thank you enough.
My daytime job is I'm a graphic designer, and what I've always said is like people think, oh, you're just a visual designer, but what it really is you take chaotic information and you make it clear and concise, and you communicate that out so everyone understands it. So I think that helped me kind of hone in on what our community needed. You know what I mean? Like I just parsed out information so that it was digestible. It's still hard to reach everyone because obviously not everyone's on social media. Some people check the newsletter, some people check the social media, some people don't do any of it. So it's hard to reach everyone. And then we also have our website, but I tried to at least make everything as clear as possible, and you can find it on multiple platforms.
Can you give us one like very specific, tangible, interesting story about something that you caught that you're like, we're going to tell the story this way, and it had an ROI, for lack of a better description? Was it design specific? Was it as far as like writing more stories? Was it, what sort of like actionable tip can somebody take?
So this sounds very marketing speak, because that actually is the field I'm in.
Yeah,
I'm in design and marketing, but like I think one of the discussions, and they didn't mean it as in like being flippant, but they were like, oh, we can just worry about the website later. We have to do all these things first. And then for me, I was like, but the website is actually one of the first things that people look at. And if it doesn't look credible, then they won't believe in us that we're capable. Like, we could be so competent, but if our present, like, public facing aspect, like, is a mess, then like there's like seeds of doubt, and they won't really believe us even if we're doing all the work. So
and that's actually like it's so common in many organizations, you know, like I worked for government for many years, and that was like a common thing. Often folks will think that you do like the website and branding and stuff is like after you've built your house, that's how you paint your door. And it's like it's part of the infrastructure of the house. It's like a part of how you're telling that story. It's a part of how you're building your team, how you're building excitement within your team. Like all of that, the storytelling and how you present that. It's like the clothes you wear, you know, like sure, we'll love you if you're naked, but like, you know, if you put some clothes on, I guess we can kind of figure out like what you're expressing. Do you like these colored clothes? Do you like big sparkly rainbows? You know, like all of that says stuff about you, and it helps people connect with you.
Yeah, and like I think like people can get stuck on the superficiality of clothes, but I think the burner scene really recognizes that clothes are an expression, and it doesn't even have to define who you are. It's just a facet and aspect of who you are. So much like an event, you can curate what you want to feel for that event. And it can change every single event. You know what I mean? So just having that story to tell people so that they can hold on to it and get excited is really important.
Yeah. No, I'll gush all day about the amazing work that you've done on like Utopia, and like I look at all the storytelling, I look at the imagery, and I'm like, I can feel the magic, and like it does mean something. All of that is valuable. So, but listeners, just so you're aware of my bias, I'm a visual artist as well. So graphic design, photography, marketing. I think that stuff's important. But we might be biased.
It absolutely is.
Yeah. If anyone does have an interest in reaching out to CoLab for any reason, you can get us at info@sdcolab.org.
Yeah.
Shameless plug.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
We're all volunteers working for a nonprofit. I don't know how pluggy that is.
I'm pretty sure nobody's going to disagree with me if I say, like, listeners, you're looking for guidance and advice. Everybody who you've heard here is open to talking with you and communicating with you and sharing everything that they know. And I'm just looking to see if anybody's waving their head no. don't. No, everybody's saying yes. Everybody's like, yeah, absolutely.
And I will say that, you know, if you are out there and listening and you do kind of start your own community space and you are successful, please do reach out to us. We would love to come visit. Come to us for a tour. We'd love to show you the space. We'd love to talk further about you. We'd love to make the connection. My grand dream is to have spots like ours in every community that is burner focused, which is the world, right? Everywhere, and have us all be interconnected. Doing knowledge sharing, tool sharing, creating just a global organization, not in that way, a global community that is focused on building up the people in our community via art and art builds.
There we go. That's the mission. That's the vision statement. That's the next level. Yeah, that's great.
Is this the episode that we start the World Union of Burner Makerspaces?
I also like the idea of putting pressure on the education models we currently think are correct. Like I like the idea of free education as much as possible, or accessible education.
Yeah.
So, accessible.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you all so incredibly super duper much for
I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you. I would be remiss if I didn't thank the people on our staff that aren't here. Riva, who is in charge of our, she's the director of making shit look good. So if you come to a CoLab and you go, wow, the paint scheme here is amazing, the way you've kind of laid this space out is beautiful, that's Riva. Dale, who heads up our wood shop, who is just came in out of the blue and just picked it up and worked his ass off to build that wood shop, really completing Denise's dream. Denise was the former wood shop lead, who's now passed on. We love you, Denise. And Tom Sherman, who heads up our print department, screen printing.
Thank you, Tom.
Tom, you're amazing.
I love it.
And Levity. Levity, who is our sewing department lead, and all of our wonderful volunteers. Really, like, this place does not exist without the love from the community and the effort and just contributions from the community.
Yeah. Any other shout outs? No. Absolutely. Of course. Well, I wanted to, gush about you. So thank you, all of you, everyone who was here and not.
Happy birthday, Arash.
Oh, thank you.
Oh yeah, happy birthday!
Can we shout you out on your own podcast?
I know. It is my birthday in a couple of 43. Yeah. Thank you all very much. Again, like I'm just like I'm constantly in a state of appreciation and gratitude for all the work that you all put in, so that I can have this experience. I can walk around into different cities and go, like, I have a just massive global family, and like no matter where I go, there's people I can connect with, and there's people showing up and bringing their expertise and coming together, and there's just like this sense of it's like a trust fall, like I know that I'm going to be caught, and I can never get enough of thanking you for all the work that you do to continue to create that momentum and build that momentum for our community to always feel that way, to feel connected and have a place to go. So this has absolutely been a pleasure. I'm psyched. Thank you so much for this. Thank you for all your stories.
Thank you, Arash.
Yeah. And hey, listeners, if somebody's starting something, if you're doing something, please, we want to hear from you. They want to hear from you. Message us. Yes, randomly in the middle of the night. It's okay.
I'm going to do a shameless plug again here,
do it.
because this is how CoLab continues to grow. If there is anybody out there that's listening from the San Diego community, we do take donations. And if you know someone that has deep pockets and would love to donate to an arts organization with a sizable amount, we won't say no.
Yeah. Send money.
What's the best way for them to reach out?
I think you mentioned it, info@sdcolab.org.
And
that really is the best way.
Yeah. We will link to everything in the show notes as well. So go look at that as well. All right. Thank you all. Love you.
Thank you.
There you have it. You are now hearing the sounds of Tomothy B, aka Tasty Tim. This set was recorded at Disorient at Burning Man 2024. You can find the full mix over at soundcloud.com/tastytim. If you loved today's episode, share it with 3 friends. If you hated it, share it with 3 enemies. Either way, we'll take the engagement. Burner Podcast is produced by a revolving team of incredible folks, including and absolutely not limited to today's episode's contributing producer, Diane Hoffoss. So on that note, producing this show that you're listening to typically does take up about a week of my month, believe it or not. And while decommodification is like at the very tippy top of my ethical framework for like anything I'm doing burn related, physical time and rent is still a real thing. So this year I'm going to be stepping up our fundraising just a little. Still figuring out what that looks like, by the way. Definitely no paywalls, no pressure. I'm going to keep doing this regardless. But just going to open up some more ways to support this work if you have the bandwidth and you feel called to. We do have a Patreon that's been getting like nowhere near enough love from me, by the way, but it's there. That, along with all of today's show notes and links, as well as links to support CoLab and the incredible work that these folks have done. They deserve your money way more, by the way. If you're going to choose one, like, pay them. I'm just telling you that I might maybe want to ask more money. All these links can be found over at burnerpodcast.com. As always, you are, if you have a guest or topic idea in your neck of the woods and you'd love to hear it on the show, hit us up. I'd love to hear them. I want to hear all your feedback and ideas. That intro music that you're dancing to earlier, that's by Joe Man. He's based out of Austin, Texas. So until next time, love, light, and all that other crap. Take us back to the playa. Tasty Tim.
burnerpodcast.com.